Welcome to a world where cash and clout get you everything. But then there's you, a total nobody, showing up to deliver a beatdown to literally everyone, dudes, ladies, and especially dudes who mess with ladies. Let's get into it. So, you've landed at Valhalla Academy, one of the top 3 hunter schools on the planet. This is the big leagues, where every wannabe hunter dreams of getting an acceptance letter. Too bad the success rate is a brutal 1 in 500, and of those lucky few, only 150 actually make it to graduation. Yeah, the difficulty setting is cranked up to nightmare mode, just like the real world. Seriously, it's day 1 and the courtyard is already a chaotic free-for-all with everyone trying to prove themselves. You've got guys with bare fists squaring up against opponents with actual swords, and overseeing this whole mess is the senior combat instructor, Lee Sang-cheol, who looks thoroughly unimpressed. Then some big shot named Yoo Min-jun rolls up to watch his family's golden goose, Yoo So-hyun. She's from the Yusin clan, you know, just one of the 5 most loaded and legendary families in all of Korea. This girl is a straight-up prodigy, wiping the floor with anyone who challenges her thanks to some serious mana skills and swordplay. She's the real deal, a rising star, but the instructor is barely batting an eye until someone drops the bombshell. Her family has a direct line to a constellation guardian. Suddenly, old man Lee Sang-cheol is paying very times close attention. See, in your world, there are 5 of these god-tier beings called constellation guardians, and it's standard procedure for hunters to get their blessings or even sign a contract for some extra juice. Each of these 5 cosmic sponsors has their own specialty. The Yusin family, they're backed by the god of the sword. Then you've got the Jang San family, who are tight with the god of spirits, the Jin Choi family with the god of martial arts, the Oyeon family repping the god of fists, and the Jeon family with the god of the bow. So this girl, having chatted with a literal god, is considered a mega genius with off-the-charts potential. People are saying this academy test is a cakewalk for her. It's such a big deal. They've got cameras broadcasting this live to the entire world. And who does this 17-year-old super talent get to fight? Why, it's you, Kim Jua, also a fresh-faced 17-year-old. The instructors are doing a double take, shocked at how ridiculously calm you are, considering you're about to face a demigod in training. The fight starts, she whips out her sword, and you've just vanished. So she decides to just swing for the fences. Her sword skills are insane, her mana control is flawless, and the attack is dead on. And then, folks, you're not going to believe what happens next. You reappear and just tap her on the chest with one punch, and it's game over. You actually look bored with how easy that was. And now, it's time for a major flashback, because the real story started 300 years ago. All right, rewind 3 centuries. You're at the top of the Tower of Destruction, locked in an epic final battle. Your opponent? The King of Destruction himself, a dude named Brace. He's complimenting you on a good fight, even though you, the legendary martial leader Kim Hyenino, are looking pretty beat up. Brace is rocking some weird blue shades and a wild mane of white hair. You agree, yeah, it was a pretty great fight, and you even manage a weak chuckle. But then your victory lap is cut short when a giant notification screen pops up right in your face. It's the universe's official congratulations message. The Tower of Destruction and its big boss, Brace, have been defeated. You just saved the world from total annihilation. No big deal. Just as you're about to celebrate, the whole massive tower starts cracking apart. You realize the place is coming down on top of you now that the final boss is toast. You let out a pain groan. You're seriously ticked off because this was supposed to be your happily ever after. You've been grinding since you were a kid, working your butt off as a hunter just to get by, and all that money, the fame, and the chill life you've been dreaming of are literally crumbling around you. For a second, you think maybe you should have brought your students with you. But nah, you scrap that idea. Brace was the toughest SOB you've ever fought, and your crew would have been wiped out. So, with a hand pressed to your side, you say goodbye to the cruel world as you start to fade away. And then, you snap your eyes open. Turns out, you've been reincarnated into the body of some kid named Kim Joo-hyuk, a full 300 years after the tower went boom. Hey, at least the timing is pretty good. Okay, so this new body of yours is about as sturdy as a wet noodle, but all your badass knowledge and skills are still rattling around in your head. You figure you'll just get used to this weak sauce body and finally live that peaceful life. Right before another one of those stupid translucent windows pops up. It's a friendly little reminder that in 5 years, the Tower of Destruction is coming back for a sequel, giving you just enough time to get ready. You're furious. You already beat that guy. You're kicking yourself for not turning Brace's body to ash, but hey, no use crying over a spilled villain. In this new era, the whole conquer the tower gig should be way easier. And this time, you swear you're going to survive and actually enjoy your life. Just then, something new flashes on the panel, leaving you completely baffled all over again. You suddenly get a flash of insight about finding lost weapons and memories in the Valhalla constellation room, 3 floors underground. And just like that, you know exactly what you need to do. It's the 4th day in Valhalla, the day the top 10 rankings get locked in. A summons goes out, and you, along with everyone else, have to haul it over to the stadium. So you get up, totally hyped to get going. All the fighters are taking their positions, and the crowd is absolutely electric, ready for the show. At that exact moment, the senior instructor, perched up high, is thinking the place is way more packed than last time, taking in the whole wild scene. As the newcomer, you're primed for battle. The match kicks off in 30 seconds, and your opponent is already staring you down. The eldest son of the Ozan family, Osihu, all of 17 years old, is standing there. Let's be real, the kid's not winning any book awards, strategy games, or martial arts competitions. But he has one talent that trumps all that. It's his ridiculously jacked physique. He can pull off stuff without mana that others can only dream of. And with barely any training, he gets insanely stronger. The guy was basically born with a top-tier body that required zero effort, making him a so-called genius. And he's glaring at you like you just keyed his car. You're both squared up. So, what's your brilliant opening move? You flip him the bird and drop a savage insult. Unsurprisingly, this makes Osihu go absolutely ballistic. He charges at you screaming trash, while you're thinking, okay, this reincarnated body definitely can't win a straight-up brawl, and I know next to nothing about this guy, other than the fact that he's a walking bulldozer. But hey, just because your enemy has superior physical stats doesn't mean it's an automatic win for him. Osihu throws a massive punch meant to send you into orbit, but you smoothly dodge it because you've got martial arts to juice up your physique and another ace up your sleeve. You sweep the leg of the blonde-haired bully, sending him crashing to the floor. Osihu is left completely baffled, with no clue what just hit him. You flash a quick wink, activating your observation skill, and then bam, you land a super precise strike right on his body. His eyes roll into the back of his head, blood spits from his mouth, and he's out cold, totally wrecked. You've won the battle, knowing that if those two abilities weren't perfectly in sync, that awesome outcome would have been impossible. Even though this new body is a bit of a downgrade, it looks like you'll have no problem hunting monsters and being a hunter, just like in the old days. You casually head for the exit after demolishing your foe, leaving the entire audience stunned. They're all buzzing about how Osihu got taken down by such a basic-looking attack. But one man in the back is silently piecing it all together. That man is the head of the Ozan family, the one and only king of fists. His name is Ochul Shin, and he's furious hearing these ignorant fools call your moves simple. He knows that even though his son only trained his body and completely ignored actual martial arts, he should have dodged that hit. But this time was different. You played him, and Osihu let his temper get the best of him, charging at you like a bull. He even used magic, which he almost never does, to try and end it fast, but you just casually tilted your head to dodge the blow. Osihu was so sure the hit would land that he threw his entire center of gravity forward, which sent him flying when you dodged, totally shocked by the miss. He left himself wide open for your counterattack. This proves you move faster than Osihu at his max speed. It shows you had the entire fight planned out, a monstrous talent in itself. Okulshin, having processed all this, stays quiet, lost in some serious thought. Unfortunately for him, a lot of other people also recognized your value, and not all of them were clueless spectators. Ochul Shin burns your name, Kim Hyuk, into his memory, deciding he'll make you join his family, no matter the cost. The stadium lights flare up. A huge cheer erupts from the fans of Choi Aranuna. You're honestly kind of impressed by these absolute lunatics, guys who look like they've served in the military, screaming for a 17-year-old girl, and calling her big sister. This is it, the final ranked match. You're slated to fight Choi Aran, the second daughter of the Chojin family. As the match begins, she immediately whips her sword from its sheath, ready to strike. You just face her down with a calm, almost bored expression. The two of you stand frozen for a moment, a classic standoff. You quickly figure she's just waiting for you to make the first move. Okay, you have to admit, the fact that she's even trying to analyze the situation puts her a cut above your previous warm-up dummies. You let out a little chuckle, wondering which flavor of humiliation you should serve up today. Time to make your move. You start strolling toward your opponent, who's totally on guard. You're hitting her with the death stare, hands casually tucked in your pockets. But hey, she's staring right back, not a single flinch. She tightens her grip on that sword, and it starts crackling with lightning. Okay, impressed. The crowd is buzzing, because apparently, this kid has mastered the Choan family's signature elemental Swaparoo. At just 17 years old, she comes at you with all the fiery spirit of a main character. Bless her heart. You take one tiny step forward, basically inviting her to take a swing. She takes the bait immediately, bringing her sword down in a massive wave of blue lightning that's got some serious juice behind it. But in the blink of an eye, you're gone. Poof. She's left swinging at air, looking completely and utterly bamboozled. Suddenly, you're standing right beside her, casually pointing out, "Hey, pro tip, if you telegraph your attack with your eyes, it's kinda easy to dodge." The pure confusion on her face is just priceless. And then, bam, a direct hit lands on her body. Her eyes go wide, a mix of pure agony and maybe a little relief that she even managed to get a piece of the block. You, Kim Joo-huk, just stare her down, not saying a word. Choi-in scrambles to grab her fancy sword, launching herself backward to get some distance. You're actually a little impressed. The girl managed to block your strike with her sword. That's why you felt the impact on an object, not a person. From her perspective, though, it felt like getting hit by a freight train. Out of nowhere, your fist is right there, just tapping her sword. Choi-in glares at you as you basically dare her. Try and dodge this next one. I bet you can't. Then you unleash a real haymaker, sending the poor girl flying across the arena with a look of total desperation. She crashes to the ground in a heap and doesn't get back up. You can't help but think something felt a little off about that last hit, like your posture was wonky. But hey, who cares? A win is a win, and the job's done. The big screen flashes the top 10 new admissions to Valhalla, and wouldn't you know it, your name, Kim Joo-huk, is right there at number 1. You're just walking by, rolling your shoulder like it's another Tuesday. Suddenly, you're mobbed. A whole crowd of people is shouting your name, begging you to join their little clubs. You've had enough of this noise and just yell for everyone to shut their traps. And with that, the day is done. But over on the internet, the headlines are already painting a picture. Kim Joo-huk, on the brink of madness? A crazy psychopath in the making. The comment section is a dumpster fire, with 92 hot takes calling you a terrible person for your reprehensible actions. Apparently, for a rookie, you're coming off as way too arrogant and extra. The keyboard warriors keep debating your potential versus your certifiably bad attitude. Meanwhile, inside the ridiculously tall towers of Valhalla, it's freshman orientation time, and you're already bored out of your skull listening to the snooze fest about Valhalla's history. Then you notice some kid staring at you from behind. The moment you look back, the kid nervously darts his eyes away. Yeah, you figured you made quite the impression yesterday and are now the center of attention. But you still got that one loose end to tie up, the whole weapons and memories thing the system panel ordered. On your way there, you figure it's a simple in and out job. Easy peasy, right? Then you spot something nearby. Looks like the opening ceremony is already over and done with. The virtual combat simulation room is just up ahead. And standing there is Kim Leon, the former chief instructor from the Trojan Guild, looking at the class roster like it personally offended him. You see Yu O-Yan from the Yusin family, Arin from the Trojan clan right next to her, and smack in the middle is O.C. Hyuk from the Asin group. They said class distribution was random, but somehow 3 of the 5 family geniuses all landed in the same room. And that's not the only interesting part. The instructor's eyes land on you, Kim Joo-huk, and you can see the moment he realizes his entire year is completely and utterly doomed. He tries to pull himself together to establish some authority. He introduces himself, saying it's a pleasure to meet all you youngsters and that he'll be your instructor. First thing he does is press a button on his podium. What happens next sends all the girls into a full-blown panic. In a flash, you're all standing in the middle of a massive open field. Everyone starts freaking out, wondering how they got there from a classroom just seconds ago. Kim Leon puts a hand on his sword, clearly thinking about showing you all a little bloodlust to kick things off. And right on cue, a horde of hideous, terrifying demonic creatures starts crawling out of the woodwork. And just like that, a whole mob of angry green dudes appears, waving around all sorts of sharp, pointy things. Everyone else immediately starts freaking out, but you just take a look. Yep, classic orcs and goblins. You do a quick head count, yikes, there are at least 100 of them. Suddenly, one of the particularly ugly ones charges right at you, swiping with a hand full of razor-sharp claws. Then its buddy tries a flying leap straight for your face, only to get clotheslined by the invisible protective barrier. Denied. Your instructor, Kim Lagon, is smirking, thinking everything is going perfectly since his little force field is holding up. He then motions for you to come closer. So you walk up to the podium, and he hits you with the big question. Can you take on this entire horde all by yourself, no help whatsoever? You just let the question hang in the air for a dramatic pause. Of course, Kim Lagon totally misreads your silence for fear. He's probably thinking, good, the kid's ego is finally in check, assuming you've only ever seen monsters in comic books like the rest of these newbies. He tells you to stop pretending and just say no so he can move on with the lesson. In response, you just flash a tiny, confident smirk. Oh, that really gets under his skin. He's fuming that you're laughing at him, and he's about to find out that, yeah, you can totally handle these monsters alone. He thinks you're bluffing and tells you to put your money where your mouth is, but you're not about to put on a show like this on the first day without some kind of prize for the mission. And just like that, you're speaking his language. A wager? Suddenly, he's all ears, asking you to name your stakes right then and there. You lay out your terms. If you take down every single monster, he has to grant any wish you want, as long as it's within his power to do so. He strokes his chin, trying to look all intimidating, and agrees to the deal. Then he gives you a hard stare, trying to psych you out. You're completely unfazed. You just ask him to hurry up and give you a sword, because you can't exactly fight 100 monsters with your bare hands. He immediately unhooks his own sword and hands it over. The second you feel the weight of it, you can't help but smile. You sling it onto your back and face the insane challenge ahead. Your instructor is watching with a face full of instant regret, while the rest of the class is glued to the scene, absolutely loving the drama. You grip the hilt, and as the barrier drops, you become a whirlwind of fury, diving headfirst into the sea of monstrous creatures. You're cutting them down one by one, but naturally, one of them tries to pull a cheap shot and attack you from behind. But you just spin and parry the strike without even thinking. Not too shabby, you muse, considering it's been a solid 300 years since you last did this. Back in the day, monsters had humanity so messed up that people were using anything and everything as a weapon just to stay alive. But even after all this time, a sword just feels right in your hands. As you fight, you notice a couple of things that seem strange. Another monster tries the same cowardly sneak attack from behind. You sidestep it effortlessly, and it all clicks into place. They're following a super simple pattern. This isn't a real fight at all. It's just a bunch of very well-programmed NPC monsters in a simulation. Meanwhile, everyone watching from the capsule is losing their minds. Kim Hyenino can't believe his eyes. He's thinking it's impossible because the sword he gave you is a piece of junk with no magic and no special abilities. And yet, you're slicing through everything with incredible skill. It's almost like the sword itself is alive. The girl in the crowd is stunned, and you just take a moment to soak in the madness. You can see her through the capsule wall, standing completely still, totally silent. She hasn't said a single word, her face a perfect picture of awe and confusion. Once you're done, you announce that you've dealt with these weak enemies and want to go to the constellation room now. You stroll out of the arena, walk right up to the barrier, and ask the instructor if he's going to keep his promise. His face immediately turns 50 shades of furious. As the sun sets between the massive skyscrapers, Kim Hyenino dismisses the class, telling all the exhausted students to head back to their dorms. You're slumped over in a classroom chair, thinking the day was way too long. All you want to do is grab your stuff and bolt. You also find it pretty ironic you have zero desire to teach anyone, and you've never even set foot in a proper school before in your life. So, while you were zoned out in the most boring class known to man, you somehow managed to download a ton of mission-critical intel. You were especially locking in on topics about the history of constellations, which, by the way, was definitely not a thing in your past life. Apparently, constellation is the fancy-pants term for when super-rich people level up into gods, usually linked with hunters. And this place, Valhalla in Korea, is the third biggest academy on the planet, basically a museum for all their shiny relics. You decided that all this theory about slaying monsters and swordplay was a complete waste of time, and your real plan was to hit the dorm and focus on some serious martial arts training, since this body of yours is pretty flimsy. But then, you sense something off. It's that white-haired girl, and she's coming up right behind you. Meanwhile, cutscene to the professor's office, where some dude is sipping coffee, telling his pal he's been through the ringer. This instructor, Kim Hyenino, admits that, honestly, it was more humiliating than actually painful and asks Lee Sang-cheol if you're even a real high school student. Lee is absolutely stunned, revealing that you, a kid who's never even seen a monster in person, just casually wiped out 120 of them in the simulator. Yeah, Kim Hyenino wasn't exaggerating one bit. From what the senior instructor could gather, you look like a total normie, but you're definitely hiding a seriously dramatic backstory. Kim Hyenino is blown away when he learns you're an orphan from a tiny orphanage in a high-danger zone, and nope, you're not faking it. Lee Sang-cheol already ran the background check. Besides, a con artist wouldn't try to get into Valhalla by making a huge scene at the opening ceremony. That's main character energy. Lee Sang-cheol asks if you requested access to the constellation room, and Kim Hyenino gives him a big ol' affirmative. The senior instructor says he'll get you into the first basement floor on the director's orders, and his friend is practically bowing with gratitude. After all, he brought you here. He's on the hook for whatever you do. Plus, he has no clue what's on the totally off-limits 5th floor, but a quick peek at the first floor should be harmless, right? Kim Hyenino is already stressing about what the next year will bring, leaving his friend completely lost. Turns out, his class has 3 students from the legendary 5 families, and dealing with even one of those divas is a nightmare, a fact the senior instructor totally understands. He doesn't even bother with comfort, just drops another bomb. There's an exchange student from the Ventric family in another class, which gets a pretty shocked reaction. We're talking Rockdale Ventric, a direct descendant of the main Ventric line. Kim Leon heard the kid got expelled from the British Academy for causing chaos. He takes a long, deep breath. Still, he's a little worried, but admits that after hearing that tea, his own classroom drama suddenly feels way more manageable. Back to you, though you're giving the girl a major "what do you want?" look. She's just staring right back, not saying a thing. You finally break the awkward silence and ask what's up. She hits you with it. Teach me all those swordsmanship techniques. And, end scene. You are completely failing to compute this request. This girl is seriously desperate to learn the insane sword moves you just showed off, but you just hit her with a flat no. When she questions you, you deliver the coldest line ever, because I don't feel like it. You tell her if that's all, you're leaving. She looks you dead in the eye and whispers, please. You just repeat, I just don't want to teach you. Then you decide to add a little insult to injury. You call her deaf and tell her to stop trailing you, because you have absolutely zero intention of becoming her teacher. You immediately walk away, leaving her standing there looking all sad and dejected. The next day, you're posted up in one of Valhalla's ridiculously fancy buildings. You're sitting at your desk, deep in thought, just staring at your hands and realizing this new body is actually better than you initially thought. Problem is, you can't do much without any magical power, and your mana control is a total mess. This could all be fixed if you find times that thing asterisk, so you decide it's time to prep a little magic. Suddenly, someone rolls up on you. Great, it's a flashy blonde dude who screams bully. This is Rockdil Ventric, and he's got his little crony, Eurida Felix, with him. He strolls right up to your desk. You don't waste any time and just ask who the heck he is. Rockdil Ventric acts like you're some uncultured swine for not recognizing his family name. He gives a quick, arrogant intro and says he's not here to waste time. Then he asks, are you interested in becoming strong? So this dude offers you a spot in his big shot family, the main Ventric branch, not some B-list affiliate that's always struggling for scraps. But here's the kicker, the Ventric family is backed by a beak mask, some kind of cosmic sugar daddy, which totally sets them apart from the regular folks. Normally, you'd have an S-class powerhouse or higher playing bodyguard for the whole crew, handpicking a protege and showering them with power-ups. But for the Ventrics, they cut a deal with a regular dude, a non-constellation type, probably to dodge some cosmic fine print. And because of this weird little loophole, their organization basically runs Europe, and getting an invite is like winning the influence lottery. Which brings us to Rockdil Ventric, who's been riding his family's coattails. The power trip has made him unbelievably arrogant. Quick flashback, he got himself booted from the British Academy for an incident, but a guy like this isn't losing any sleep over it. You can just picture him on the front steps with his assistant, giving the classic villain speech about how he always gets what he wants, even after getting expelled. He's a Ventric, after all, so they'll just grease some palms to get him back in the game. Besides, someone out there clearly enjoys the drama. Anyway, back to the present. He tries to sweet-talk you, Kim Joo-huk. You were the main event at the entrance ceremony, and he figures he can just add you to his collection of trophies. So he dangles the ultimate prize, a personal introduction to the Ventric family's constellation. And what do? You hit him with the most epic, stone-cold no he's ever heard. The guy just stands there, completely glitching out, unable to process the rejection. Even his assistant is pulling a face, and then the rage kicks in. But you're no fool. You saw right through his little act. This was a power play, and you just won. Rockdil Ventric loses it, calling you some very creative, not safe for work names. Suddenly, an authority figure appears. He tells everyone to park it and calls out the show-off. This just makes your new rival even madder, especially since the guy uses his full name. Ouch. This new player is the senior instructor, Lee Sang-chul. He lays down the law, reminding everyone this ain't your cushy old academy. The show-off, meanwhile, is sizing this guy up. He recognizes him as a combat instructor. Gritting his teeth like a cartoon villain, he slinks back to his seat with his minion, vowing that you two will definitely meet again. And you just watch the whole soap opera unfold with those intense red eyes, not saying a single word. Fast forward, and the school day is finally over. You're thinking about how you learned absolutely zero about the Constellation Hall today, and instead wasted your morning dealing with that trust fund moron. You're also mulling over all these guild scouts, students, and even instructors trying to recruit you, even after you basically roasted them all. And just then, someone pops up behind you. Again, it's that persistent girl asking you to teach her fencing. Again, you let out an internal groan. Apparently, she thinks the third time's the charm. Meanwhile, back at the Grand Valhalla dorms, in the penthouse suite, someone is having a full-blown meltdown, taking out their rage on a perfectly innocent chandelier. And who could it be but the annoying and arrogant Rockdil Ventric? He's absolutely losing his mind because you, an orphan, had the audacity to humiliate him. He's screaming at his assistant, Yura, to get someone named Dara on the line, because he needs a problem that's you, by the way, taken care of. As the scene fades, Rockdale is still just stewing. He barks his poor assistant's name again. She's frozen solid, which is apparently the wrong move. He gets all up in her personal space, so this guy starts grilling her, asking if she still thinks she's some big-shot princess. So, get this. While you're minding your own business, some clown is manhandling his assistant, literally yeeting her to the ground. He's screaming at her to call Dara because he has someone to deal with. The guy also demands she get a second year from the Rise family on the horn, pronto. The poor blonde assistant, looking absolutely terrified, just squeaks out a yes, sir. And where are you during all this high-stakes drama? In your Valhalla dorm room, trying to get your zen on, with this awesome-looking blue magic just radiating off your body. You're in the zone. And then you immediately hack up a cloud of smoke. Right. You're reminded for the millionth time that this body of yours is about as good at magic as a toaster. You just sit there in a funk, your mind drifting back to that afternoon when that girl materialized behind you again, making her second attempt to get your attention. You'd made it all the way to your dorm room door, and she was still trailing you, repeating her request like a parrot with a one-track mind. Being so annoyingly persistent, she was practically begging for it. So you hit her with a price tag designed to scare her off. 10 million won per lesson. And just like that, you've crushed another high schooler's dreams. Classic. Figuring that's way out of her league, you're all set to bounce. But then, plot twist, she asks for your phone, leaving you standing there completely clueless. You're like, what are you doing? And she casually says she's adding her number for the wire transfer, a move that leaves you, Kim Hyenino, absolutely floored. Next thing you know, your phone dings. It's a transfer notification for 100 million won. Well, guess you're officially on the hook to teach her your super secret, masterful techniques now. Of course, you immediately said no way and tried to refuse the cash. Back in the present, you're still reeling from the absolute shock of that moment. I mean, seriously, what high schooler is walking around with 100 million won? And hey, if you times do, times teach her. It's not like you have to spill times all times your secrets, but that pile of cash is just too big to ignore. You figure you can definitely put it to good use, so who cares if your mana is currently at starving artist levels? With newfound purpose, you get to your feet, ready for the mission. It's time to take those first glorious steps toward victory, because you're going to find that secret vault, even in the pitch-black darkness. So, you're trekking through the jungle, remembering your research. You already checked this out, and yeah, most of the vaults you hid 300 years ago are long gone. Your intel suggests only 4 could possibly be left, and realistically, it's probably just 3. But one thing's for sure, they're somewhere in the Valhalla Mountains, and you're not stopping till you find one. You start channeling that signature blue magic of yours, knowing the vault's location can be pinpointed by sensing this special marble. It's basically a magical GPS that responds to your powers easy peasy. And then, bingo! A bright circle lights up the ground. Finally, you, Kim Hyenino, have hit pay dirt. You walk up to the glowing neon circle and start digging, only to be immediately reminded that your current body has the muscle tone of a wet noodle. Man, if you'd known it would be this much work, you definitely would have buried this thing in a much shallower, easier-to-reach spot. Then again, if it wasn't for that whole Tower of Destruction incident 300 years ago, you wouldn't have needed to do any of this. The world was ending, there was nowhere safe to stash your loot, so what's a guy to do? You built these epic vaults and chucked everything inside, praying it would all still be here when you got back. And as the sun rises over Valhalla, you're about to find out. And there it is. At long last, you've found what you were looking for. One of your legendary treasure vaults. Now, where the heck is the lock? Oh, there it is. A normal key won't work here, obviously. So you weave a little magic, shaping it into a custom key that slides into the keyhole like it was made for it because it was. You give yourself a little pat on the back. The door groans open as you put all your noodle arm strength into it. And finally, you stumble your way into the vault. You land on your feet, staring at piles and piles of golden treasure. A massive grin spreads across your face as you literally ask your loot how it's been doing. And that's a wrap on that little adventure. You just stand there, silently soaking in the sight of all of that cash. Now that you're loaded again, you don't have to sweat the small stuff. You can finally focus on finding what you really need. But then, something catches your eye, and it stops you cold. The storage stones. They're right there in front of you. To keep the vaults running, you juice them up with a little magic, and today's the day you finally cash in. You grab one of the stones, and it immediately starts glowing with a brilliant blue light. Yep, that's exactly what a top-tier storage stone is supposed to do. Its magical power should be practically bursting at the seams, just like that. You stop siphoning the magic for now, deciding to deal with the other stones first. Smart move. Transport the lightweight jewels before you even think about the heavy gold bars. Meanwhile, it's a gorgeous day in Valhalla. Cut to you, Kim Hyenino, passed out in your chair again like a total zombie. You're thinking you must be insane to ever plan on building another vault, since your muscles are screaming from just a little digging. And just when you're about to get some peace, she pops up out of nowhere, once again demanding you teach her your sword-fighting secrets. Okay, this girl is clearly not going to take no for an answer. You start running the facts through your head, trying to figure out why on earth she's so fixated on you as a teacher. You finally ask Erin Choi what her deal is, since her family could teach her anything she needs to know. Her answer? She's never seen anyone wield a sword better than you, Kim Joo-huk. So you hit her with the obvious question. What about her dad? He's the head of the Trojan family, for crying out loud. He's probably way better with a sword than you are. Just as she's about to spill the tea about her dad, your instructor yanks you into the teacher's lounge, leaving you completely clueless. But ding, ding, ding. This is about that little inquiry you made earlier, and since you're dying for answers, you're out of that chair and gone in a flash. You leave that poor girl just hanging there, mid-sentence, looking like a kicked puppy. You toss over your shoulder, training field, 6 in the morning, be there, leaving her totally gobsmacked by the sudden appointment. You practically have to ask if she even wants the gig. The light bulb finally goes on and she promises she'll be there. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, you're sitting across from your instructor, who's in a major hurry because he's got a class in a few minutes, so he's speed-running this conversation. First up, you've got the green light for the constellation building. All you gotta do is head to the basement. But there's a catch. You are absolutely forbidden from going any deeper than that. You're like, cool, cool, when can I start? And what do you know, you can go tonight. Perfect. Your instructor, Kim Hyenino, is genuinely shocked. He totally expected you to throw a massive hissy fit about the no-go zone downstairs. And with that, you both split to handle your business. You're out of that room before the door can even swing shut. So, Megan already bit the dust back in Valhalla. This is the place, the holy grail of Valhalla Academy. The Constellation Hall. You take a good, long look around. You spot a couple of guys in black suits playing statues, looking all serious. As you're scoping the place out, one of them is whispering sweet nothings into his walkie-talkie. You mention how the security here makes the main gate look like a playground, and you're told, well, duh, this place is kind of a big deal. And it's not just the guards you're clocking, it's the walls. They're basically wallpaper with every kind of magical ward you can imagine. The whole place is a fortress, except for the front door. So, naturally, you have to ask your professor for the deets, like, hypothetically, how illegal would it be to pop down to the second basement? Kim Hyenino shoots back that it won't land you in jail, but it will get you booted from the academy so fast your head will spin. Oh, and there's a fun little side effect. You'll go completely bonkers before you even pack your bags. This leaves you a little confused, so Kim Hyenino breaks it down for you. Down on the second floor, the raw, uncut magic of the constellations is just flowing free. One little touch and your brain turns to scrambled eggs. You get the picture loud and clear. Meanwhile, your instructor is thinking, why is this kid asking about the forbidden floor times right before times going in? It's almost like he wants times to go down there, but he just shakes his head, thinking, nah, the top recruit wouldn't be that dumb. Staying here is way too good of a deal. Kim Hyenino gives you the final warning. You've got 30 minutes. You give him a roger that, be back in a jiffy, and then, poof, the system panel pops up. It's flashing the same old boring mission objectives at you. You give it a once-over, not that you really care. Getting expelled? You couldn't care less. This place is the only reason you even came to Valhalla, and your real target is the third basement. As you start heading down, you wonder if these stairs ever actually end. And then, bam, you see it. The place looks less like a magical archive and more like a supermax prison. You're pretty sure the actual Times Constellation Hall was back on the first basement floor. None of this feels right, making you second-guess this whole going deeper plan. But before you can overthink it, the panel makes a surprise comeback. It announces that, surprise, requirements met. You're being teleported to the hall, leaving you with a big old question mark over your head about what's going on. Then, suddenly, you and the panel start to fade out of existence. When you reappear, a familiar voice greets you. Oh great, it's your number one nemesis. Brace. You stare at him, completely shocked and looking like you've just seen a ghost. Brace gets all dramatic. After 300 long years, we meet again. But mid-monologue, wham! You plant your fist squarely in his face. You're not here for speeches, you're just thrilled to finally see this jerk again. Brace tries to tell you to chill out, but your response is another 5-knuckle sandwich right to his jaw. You try to talk things out like a normal person, but Brace's idea of a conversation is another fist to your face. Apparently, he's still stuck on the whole wanting you dead thing. So there you are, eating dirt, completely defenseless, and Brace is starting to look bored. He actually has the nerve to say he's not the kind of guy who throws punches. But for you? Oh, for you, he'll make an exception. Apparently, You single-handedly nuked his future, his fortune, his honor, and all the effort he poured into his fan club. Just as you're processing this, Brace hits you with a classic villain monologue question. Aren't you just a little bit curious about where you are? You gotta admit, you are kinda curious, since the place looks boringly normal. Then he drops the bombshell. This is all an imaginary world, a pocket dimension inside a relic. And suddenly, you're all ears. Brace lays it on thick, explaining that everything you're seeing is just a figment of your imagination, because his physical body kicked the bucket a solid 300 years ago. He's been trapped inside this little trinket this whole time. You're reeling from this info dump when Brace hits you with a smug little smirk and declares he's leveled up to a constellation. This leaves you speechless for about half a second. Then, your brain reboots, you get pissed all over again, and you promptly serve him another knuckle sandwich. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Kim Hyenino is just chilling, waiting for you to finish up. Suddenly, something just pops into existence right in front of him, and surprise, it's you, getting a friendly pat-down from the local security. Hyenino asks if you were up to something weird, but you just play it cool, claiming you were only window shopping. You quickly add that you didn't venture too deep, being rather attached to your head. The instructor just tells you to scram, and you're more than happy to oblige. On the walk back to the dorm, your mind flashes back to that little reunion with your least favorite person. Honestly, you couldn't care less if Brace became a freaking galaxy. All you wanted was a straight answer about that weird, transparent notification screen that keeps popping up like an annoying ad. Brace claims he knows nothing, which earns him another shot to the jaw because you are absolutely not in the mood for games. He finally spills that after he was killed, he was trapped in that thing for 300 years, totally powerless. Hearing this actually makes you chill out a bit. You open your hand and plot twist discover Brace got the exact same notification you did. The message said his mission was to contact the reincarnated you to get his memories back. And apparently, this whole mess has attracted some mysterious, shady figure into the mix. It's got him questioning why he's the owner of the Tower of Destruction. You're just standing there, completely floored, trying to figure out who this mystery man is and what his angle is. Brace admits he's clueless, since his memory is basically a corrupted file that won't load properly. Then he flips the script and asks what your little pop-up message said. You explain that yours is a fetch quest, find a weapon and some memories, but the fine print is censored with a bunch of gibberish symbols you can't read. You also point out that your memory feels perfectly fine. Thanks. Brace suggests maybe you just haven't downloaded all the updates yet, and since you've already found the weapon, the rest should just fall into place. This leaves you scratching your head. Weapon? What weapon? Brace clarifies that this entire pocket dimension is the home of the 4 village swords, which are now holy relics. He only became a constellation because he had the nerve to use one of them. You call him a cursed freak, your anger flaring up all over again. Snapping back to the present, you're trying to wrap your head around how your village sword became a holy relic with your arch-nemesis living in it like a ghost. Your first instinct is to just smash the whole thing to pieces and be done with it. But, of course, there's a catch. You grab a glowing blue magic sword, thinking about Brace, the so-called King of Destruction. It dawns on you that this new mission on your screen can only be completed with that specific village weapon. And just when you're deep in thought, a new challenger appears, demanding your ID. Great, it's the local welcoming committee of bullies and tryhards. Their leader, a pompous dude named Lyric Sunrise from the Sunrise family, announces that the seniors are out of town and demands you present yourself. You're just wondering what kind of sad upperclassman gets their kicks from hazing freshmen. His goons immediately start chirping about your bad attitude and lack of manners. One of the cronies says he wants to teach you a lesson, and the leader gives him the go-ahead. He starts walking towards you, clenching something in his fist. But just as he starts his big speech about the difference between first and second years, you interrupt him with a massive kick square in the chest. You tell the whole crew to either put up or shut up. Okay, flash forward to the main event. Some short-haired show-off is whining on the ground after that beautiful kick you just delivered. You're already leaping into the air for round 2. You line up another perfect strike and deliver it right to your chatty new friend's face. The guy goes absolutely flying, totally wrecked and looking like a discarded ragdoll before he even lands on his butt. His landing makes a super satisfying thud that echoes around the place before he finally slides into a wall. The blonde ringleader is just staring, thinking you've completely lost your mind. His eyes are practically bugging out of his head in sheer terror. He just noticed that you, who were unarmed a second ago, are now holding a sword. You can't help but think, man, this perfect grip feels incredible. It's a feeling you haven't had in a long, long time. The blonde kid shrieks at his goons to attack, probably because he knows if they wait, they're all getting crushed. But wait, let's rewind 3 hours. Some dude named Rockdale Ventrick is telling this blonde chump that he has a very simple job, just take care of one weak, useless student. In exchange, the Sunrise family gets a fat reward, delivered immediately. He then hands over the profile of the first-year student he wants taken out. He even tells him it doesn't matter if the target has weapons, because any mess will be cleaned up like it never happened. The overconfidence is just dripping off this guy. Finally, he asks if Blondie is in. The kid puffs out his chest, says he gets it, and accepts the job, slamming the door on his way out like a true drama queen. In his head, he's thinking your first place rank means nothing, because you're just a first-year rookie who can't possibly hang with his seasoned second year. This whole rank difference obsession is a big deal, all thanks to the first year's contracts with the constellations. See, Valhalla students have to go to the constellation room in their first year's second semester to sign a contract and become second years. Once you're a contractor, you can use all sorts of cosmic power. And in this guy's mind, you don't even have a guardian backing you up. He figured squashing you would be a walk in the park. That's what he believed anyway. But there's a teensy little flaw in his logic. Because back in the present, you're already swinging your sword and dropping another one of his wannabe tough guys. One of them even tries to curse you out. He's holding some edgy-looking, blood-red knife, but then he hears a little swoosh. That's the sound of your sword, mercilessly deleting him from the fight without a moment's hesitation. Out of nowhere, you hear something coming your way. It's another one of these goons trying to hit you with a cowardly cheap shot. The guy hurls his sharp, pointy sword, and it just plunks into the dirt floor. He just stands there, totally confused that his big, powerful attack completely whiffed. And you're already standing right next to him, probably making fun of his aim. You promptly give his filthy, ugly face a taste of your sword, sending the attacker flying across the area. His buddies are just frozen, stunned by what they're seeing. After a brief flight, their friend makes a brutal and harsh landing, headfirst on the ground. The blonde leader is in total shock. You, the rookie, are taking down his second years one by one, and you're not even breathing hard. Before becoming contractors, this shouldn't be possible. Second years are supposed to have way better skills than first years, but these guys have proven to be utterly useless. The blonde kid is just wondering what kind of freaky, never-before-seen sword technique you're using. From his perspective, it looks like you're just casually moving around, but anyone you hit can barely even stand up afterward. You turn to face the last few guys standing and announce that you're going to crush anyone who's just wasting your time at this point. You can practically see the hamster wheel spinning in this blonde dude's head as his crew decides whether to fight or flight. He tells his team not to sweat it, because you're just some weak, useless rookie. Oh, this is going to be good. You just had to remark on the guy's colossal nerve, didn't you? Well, that totally sets him off, and he comes charging at you like a freight train. But then, whoops, he feels a little something tap him. Turns out that something was your super sharp sword making friends with his body. You even mock him for just standing there like a statue waiting to be hit, before landing a blow that's both strong and surgically precise. With the last bit of energy he has, the blonde boy's final thought is probably, how the heck did you get so close, before he faceplants, completely knocked out. So, you immediately open your palm and start a one-sided slap fight with his face a few times to get him to wake up. You're basically asking, who are you people, and why the random hostility? The blonde boy mumbles that they're all senior veterans, as if that explains anything. Your gut tells you this is way too weird, and there has to be a puppet master behind this little street brawl. The pale kid with the earrings finally cracks, admitting their grand plan was just to rough up the #1 ranked rookie. Real original, guys. You totally mock them, calling out their so-called loyalty as a bunch of wannabe bullies, but just as you're turning to leave, the arrogant little punk calls you back. He tries to threaten you, claiming that if word of this beatdown gets out, you, the rookie, will be the one getting expelled. But honestly, you couldn't care less. You shoot back that everyone's about to hear the embarrassing and downright shameful story of how a bunch of second years tried to jump a freshman. And not only did they try, but they got absolutely wrecked, which would be beyond humiliating if it got out. So, you tell the blonde kid he better think long and hard if he ever wants to join a decent guild. With that mic drop, you bounce, leaving them all tasting dirt and humiliation. The clock ticks over to 8:28, and we cut to Rockdale Ventrick, anxiously waiting by his phone like he's expecting a call from a crush. Suddenly, his screen lights up with Merrick Sunrise's name, and he's practically giddy. He immediately asks if the little job was delivered as promised, but the kid on the other end just spills the contractor's name, tells him he's officially quitting the job, and washes his hands of the whole mess. And that's a wrap on that chapter. The next one opens with Rockdale Ventrick just completely stunned. The blonde kid even warns him to stay a million miles away from anything involving you from now on. He's left scratching his head, wondering what went so wrong with his plan to deal with you, the cursed kid. Just a few hours ago, he was so sure of himself. He desperately suggests filing a report with the administration, figuring if they have any visible bruises, it's probably enough evidence to get you in hot water. Rockdale even dangles a fat reward and his family's sponsorship if the blonde kid plays along. But the kid knows that even with backing from a powerhouse family, there's no way they're getting their lost honor back. He then hangs up flat on Rockdale Ventrick, leaving the man absolutely furious and seeing red. He curses the kid out and smashes his phone on the ground in a fit of rage. His assistant just watches the meltdown, standing perfectly still and silent. He then screams for Yura, who answers right away. She's already on the case, but their muscle, Dare, is super far away, so it's going to take a long while for him to arrive. This just makes Rockdale even angrier. Meanwhile, let's take a trip to the beautiful country of Mexico, specifically to the Aria Academy. The scene? A bunch of dudes are sprawled out on the ground, completely taken out. And in the middle of all this chaos, some absolute unit of a guy is just chilling on his high-tech phone. This guy is the fearsome Dara Ventric, and he sees his brother wants him to fly to Korea. The mission: deal with someone named Kim Hyuk. The reward is already set, and hearing that makes him grin. He was just thinking he was all out of cash cows after getting the boot, and now, look at that. A major comeback just dropped into his lap. The next day, at 6 p.m., you're in Valhalla's epic training hall, completely floored by how enormous the place is. You're already getting pumped, ready to run until your legs give out. Suddenly, someone else shows up and questions what you're even doing there. You look over and realize it's Brace from the Sealed Sword, which is a total shocker. For a hot second, you're just impressed, thinking the guy somehow broke free and you'd have to put the smackdown on him and stuff him back in his sword. But since that's not the case, everything's cool between you two. You plant your feet, start stretching, and decide to grill your fearsome, ghostly enemy with a few questions. You bring up the sword, which is now an artifact being kept at Valhalla, and ask him how you two even got out of the constellation room with it in the first place. You're a little concerned, though, because apparently Brace pulled a fast one and swapped the real weapon with a nearly identical fake. You ask him how he learned a trick like that, and he says that even after losing all his power, he can still whip up forgeries like it's nothing. Turns out, even Brace has no idea why he has such weird abilities. Out of nowhere, the gray-haired girl arrives on the scene. You're mid-stretch, and her sudden appearance definitely catches you by surprise. She's here asking about her swordsmanship lessons, but you have to break it to her that you're not teaching her that right now. Instead, you're starting with the basics, building up her stamina. The cute girl looks totally confused when she hears this, but hey, she's determined to learn and is willing to do whatever it takes. You tell her to start stretching immediately, and she gives you a firm yes. It might seem basic, but you know what you're doing. This girl needs to beef up her stamina so she can absorb and control mana way more easily. Your training method might look pretty bizarre, since it's prioritizing one thing over another seemingly important one. So, your new trainee, Koei Aran, has a mana pool the size of an ocean, but the physical stamina of a student who just picked up a sword for the first time. She chirps that she's all done stretching. That's your cue. You immediately declare that the real times training begins now. And just like that, the two of you launch into a brutal set of push-ups. Next on the agenda are some soul-crushing squats, followed by a few upper body workouts for good measure. Before you know it, Cohen is just a puddle on the ground, completely wiped. She's physically wrecked, gasping for air like a fish out of water. But the real gut punch for her is learning that this was just the warm-up for your crazy intense boot camp. You tell her to quit napping on the floor and get up, because a breezy 20-kilometer run around the block is next on the list. Meanwhile, back in Valhalla's first-year Class A, you're analyzing the girl's condition, noting that her body has some seriously amazing potential for development. She's slumped next to you, looking like a zombie with designer eye bags and a face that screams, "I've made a huge mistake." That's when the teacher calls for order in the court. It's Lilia, the high and mighty instructor and dimensional monster supervisor, announcing that you're all about to enjoy a simple written exam today. She swears she gave you all a heads up on the first day and totally expected everyone to study for this. So, surprise, it's pop quiz time. The mission, should you choose to accept it, is to prove you know how to deal with every single monster on the planet. The exam kicks off, and the room fills with the sound of desperate scribbling. Even Koan looks like she's having a mental breakdown over the test. You, on the other hand, are staring her down like she's your mortal enemy. Suddenly, the teacher checks her ridiculously futuristic and stylish watch. And, pencils down. She calls time, giving everyone instructions on how to turn in their test papers. She points out this little quiz won't affect your overall individual ranking, but at times will be used to sort you out for the next class. No pressure, right? Once all the tests are in, she informs the class that next week you'll be diving into the first official lesson in the virtual combat communication room. With that, she makes a swift exit. You're left sitting there, lost in thought. That's when Brace slides over, asking you about the method you use for the test. You're busted, completely stunned that he was watching your every move. This dude, your rival, claims he was bored and then has the nerve to ask what's on your mind. He explains that, to be precise, he can pretty much hear your brains running commentary about him. You play it cool, saying you just wrote down the answers as you knew them, and your so-called enemy just says he gets it. Meanwhile, Across campus in the Valhalla first-year teacher's lounge, the drama is just getting started. The teacher is absolutely fuming over your test because you had the audacity to call those useless scribbles answers. Nearby, Kim Hyenino is just trying to enjoy a beverage. He finds the source of the commotion, the teacher, who's radiating pure fury at this point. He wanders over and asks if those are the tests from his class. She confirms it, explaining how this simple test was actually a genius way to gather intel for her next lesson plan. She gushes about how Class A is full of prodigies from the best families and how everyone did spectacularly well, which seems to catch Kim Hyenino by surprise. He decides to peace out, and she gives him the nod. He goes back to sipping whatever's in that mysterious white cup. Suddenly, a shriek rips through the air, causing him to spill the entire contents of his cup. And the source of that scream? It's your teacher, who's just gotten to your test. She corners him, asking if you, the prodigious boy, were even trying. She realizes you've been trolling the entire assignment. He's completely floored by your nerve. Lilia declares that this will not be ignored and that she's going to put all your answers on blast in the next class to prove you can't just be your way through monster slaying. 1 week later, you're in a virtual combat simulation at Valhalla when Lilia announces she's finished grading the tests from last week. And while most students pass with flying colors, there's a catch. She orders you, Kim Ju-huk, to step forward. You, of course, do exactly as you're told. The two of you are now face-to-face in a classic showdown. Lilia hands over your test paper, which looks like it's been murdered by a red pen. The teacher then reveals you scored a big, fat 0, and it seems you didn't take the test seriously. You argue back, insisting you gave it your all. Oh, she's got a few questions for you. All right. First up, the teacher hits you with a pop quiz. What's the most effective way to take down a stone goblin? You, being the absolute genius you are, say the solution is to punch it right in the stomach. The follow-up question, what do you do when 8 wild goblins are rushing you? Your answer, send every last one of them to the Shadow Realm, starting with whichever one is closest. Your teacher is looking at you like you're insane, wondering if you even tried to put a single ounce of effort into these answers. I mean, everyone knows the best way to kill a stone goblin isn't with a sword, it's just not strong enough. Lilia seriously doubts you could even pull it off, but you hit back, telling her you'll end this little scuffle in a single strike. She's getting super annoyed by your nonstop nonsense and your ego the size of a planet. But hey, she can't deny your confidence. And since you're so sure of yourself, she decides to give you a very special, very public opportunity to prove it. Suddenly, a massive crash echoes through the place. A monster lets out a roar, trying to look all big and scary. And there it is, standing right in front of you and the prodigy kid. Your teacher lays it out plain and simple. If you can actually kill this stone goblin exactly the way you described, she'll instantly change your test grade. You just nod and say, got it. You casually toss your test paper onto the control table for safekeeping. You then stroll over to the weapon rack, pick out a single sword, and charge straight at the stone goblin without a second thought. That thing is staring you down with the ugliest, most nightmare fuel expression ever. Now, your teacher already knows you've taken down 120 goblins before, so she's pretty confident in your skills. But here's the kicker. Against this stone-plated beast, a random, off-the-rack sword just ain't gonna cut it. All of a sudden, the goblin starts screaming like it's auditioning for a horror movie. You've already landed a few perfectly precise hits. Your teacher's jaw is practically on the floor. The goblin is groaning, a massive gash ripped open in its body, and a gnarly crack spreading across its head. That's your cue to start channeling some mana into the mix. You toss the simple sword aside like it's yesterday's trash. You wrap this fight up so easily it's almost boring. With one final punch to the goblin's stomach, the fight is over. Some little girl is absolutely stunned because you just clapped a stone goblin with a single sword and 0 magic. The big blonde dude is just watching in dead silence, completely shell-shocked. Even Choi Irene looks seriously impressed. Lilia just lets out a huge sigh and asks how in the world you managed to do that. You explain it like it's the simplest thing ever. You just hit the goblin in the stomach. Your teacher is completely baffled by this. She's thinking that to kill a stone goblin with just a sword, you'd need to be at least an A-class contractor, which is the only thing that makes any logical sense here. And yet, you did it with nothing but a weapon. So, you ask if your answer was correct. But Lilia shuts that down, saying that was just one question, and there's a whole lot more where that came from. You're a little confused, feeling a serious case of déjà vu. Then, out of nowhere, the ground starts to split open. You can't believe what you're seeing. It's a huge, dark tunnel that just seems to go on forever. You immediately turn to your teacher and ask what this is all about. She just tells you to focus and look straight ahead. You hear a faint footstep. A few monsters creep out from the darkness of the tunnel. She's thinking to herself that it's tough controlling goblins with anger management issues, because one wrong move could trigger their scream ability, summoning even more of them. Normally, the strategy is to either nuke them with magic all at once or just run for your life. And even though you can only see 3 goblins right now, she knows that for every mistake you make, 5 more are going to pop out to join the party. Even with your sword skills, this is going to be tricky, and Lily has heard your swing speed is pretty slow, but you just start your attack combo, landing a hit square on the enemy's forehead, which just makes the other goblins go absolutely ballistic. The green goblin stays on high alert during the fight, but it's not long before you smack it right in its ugly mouth, sending it crashing to its knees. Your teacher is blown away by the whole display, while you're just standing there gloating because you nailed the second question too. Fast forward to another day at the Valhalla Training Center. You and Choi Irene are on the treadmills, running at a pace that's just flat out insane. The speed numbers on the display are completely off the charts. It's not long before the gray-haired girl collapses onto the floor, totally wiped out. Once again, she's on the ground, gasping for air. You just look down at her without saying a word, a slightly amused look on your face. Then you hit her with, "Don't they make you train in your clan?" You're struggling with a simple warm-up. She hits you back with a classic, "I don't really push myself like that." So, you fire back, asking how little Miss Choi Arn plans to fight off some hulking, nightmare-fuel monsters. Her brilliant comeback? She can just use her magic by, borrowing power from the constellations. Easy peasy. And you're just standing there thinking, yep, totally called it. Instead of hitting the gym, they just hit up their cosmic sugar daddies for power. I mean, sure, skipping leg day is fine as long as you can phone a friend in the sky, but the whole setup is a house of cards. You could get trapped in a dungeon with a giant no magic allowed sign, which would be, inconvenient. On top of that, your mana bar could hit 0 mid-brawl, or worse, your favorite constellation could just ghost you. After running through that whole disaster playlist in your head, you turn to the girl and ask if she thinks these little workouts are doing anything for her. Chor Erin immediately gives you a big yes, because you promised to teach her sword fighting if she did them. You're just stunned, because, well, yeah, that was the entire point of the bribe. She's looking at you like you've grown a second head, but you both just brush it off and call it a day, since you've got to get to the academy. She doesn't get why you're not leaving. You have to explain that you're about to bang out one more set of exercises. You almost ask if she wants to join, but then you reconsider. Good call. Choi Erin says her goodbyes and bolts, leaving you all alone, holding a ridiculously large weight. Brace, your inner demon, immediately asks if Choi Arn is her real name, and you tell him it is. The cosmic villain is totally blown away that she survived your training without a single complaint. You just explain that you only agreed to teach her sword stuff because she was so dang persistent. You also answer another one of Brace's nosy questions, admitting you never told her the whole truth, but you've got a sneaking suspicion she's already pieced it together. You both have to admit, it's pretty impressive she figured out your power level just by watching, which is exactly why you're willing to show her a few moves. Suddenly, you hear a noise. It's some shredded dude over there, bench pressing a small planet's worth of weights. The guy is drenched and grunting up a storm. Then, out of nowhere, he spots you. The two of you lock eyes in a moment of pure, unadulterated, awkward gym silence. You finally ask how long he's been there. He explains he's been there from the start, saying it's just his usual after-class routine. Then he just makes a quick exit, leaving you to start mentally dissecting Si-Hook Ho's entire martial arts-ready bone structure and skill set. Brace, of course, has to know why you're so interested in Mr. Muscles. You explain that Si-Hook's destined to have more brains than the mages who only train their mana bar. You then turn the tables on Brace, asking what the deal is with these cursed constellations. His answer? A big, fat, "I'm not really sure." You immediately roast him for being so useless. Brace gets all defensive, claiming he's been in cosmic lockdown for 300 years and knows nothing about the other star dudes. He then adds that you could probably find out more if you just finish the new mission in your system's tab. And just like that, you're deep in thought. A panel pops into your vision, flashing info and a laundry list of warnings. It points you toward the center of the Great Valhalla Forest, home to Madagascar, which gets your gears turning. You remember this place from class. It was the final survival exam location from first semester. You're thinking that if it weren't for this godforsaken mission, you'd just grab your stuff and get the heck out of Dodge. But it looks like you're stuck playing spy for now. Brace immediately calls you out on your thoughts, and you quickly justify yourself by bringing up the last fight, saying if you hadn't done what you did, your head would have been turned into a fine red paste, just like his was. You also figure that, either way, you can't leave until the mission's done, so the secrets of your reincarnation will probably just sort themselves out. Meanwhile, across the pond in the United Kingdom, specifically London, we zoom in on the Ventric Mansion, a seriously creepy-looking place with old-school decor and enough spooky paintings to give anyone nightmares. And boom, you cut to a comically large table with a man and a woman holding court. The woman, Adelia Ventrich, the family's HBIC, wastes no time and gets right down to business. She's demanding the latest tea, and the guy reports that the labyrinth near Reading has officially been conquered. Adelia gives him a golf clap for that and asks for the next item on the agenda. He mentions he's thinking of headhunting some new talent he scouted on the job. Specifically, some lone wolf survivor from a bandit crew. The boss lady raises an eyebrow, so he clarifies. The dude's a beast, and his buddies are all A-list contractors. Adelia's sold. She agrees to give them the official Ventrix seal of approval, but tells him to put them through the ringer with some capability tests first, and the guy is all, "You got it, boss." She then asks if that's all for the daily download. But wait, there's more. Turns out, he's got some piping hot gossip concerning Rockdale Ventric. He drops the bomb that he heard about a little incident, and that Desert has been summoned to South Korea. This news makes Adelia's face go full on thundercloud. See, Desert Ventric is the family's ultimate problem child, the biggest delinquent to ever walk the earth. He's got a whole rap sheet of heinous acts using the family name. We're talking about the time he permanently deleted 5 people at the British Academy when he was 19, all over some dumb argument. By 20, he was officially yeeted from the Ventric family tree. Adelia is just stewing, thinking about how this clown has been laying low for years and is now about to link up with Rockhill. She immediately orders a full surveillance detail on Rockhill. She gets a crisp, "Yes, ma'am," in response. The messenger is also told to pass a message to that arrogant punk. If he's caught stepping even one toe out of line, he's getting the boot for good this time. The guy confirms again, says his report is done, and pieces out of there, like, pronto. This leaves Adelia all alone in that massive room, just silently fuming, thinking about all these cursed fools running around with powers they didn't even grind for. That ability was something else entirely. And right there on her throne-like chair, an inscription reads, "All for one, and everything is only for one person." Subtle. In her world, all those powers were destined to be hers anyway. Lost in her villain monologue, she looks for a sign from her, a silent partner. A super creepy painting of the Guardian constellation on the wall. Meanwhile, back in your classroom at Valhalla, the professor is droning on about the word of the day, malefactor. In today's world, that's basically the go-to term for anyone who uses their space daddy powers for evil. These malefactors roll solo or in crews, and among those crews, the most notorious is the group Onagad. You, however, are just thinking that while the gym grind is making you feel stronger, you've also got a decent handle on this whole mana thing. You're not at prodigy level or anything, but it's a huge upgrade from your last playthrough. And yet, something still feels off. It gets you wondering why your original body was in such garbage condition. You remember trying to get your mana flowing on day 1, and you could barely finish. Your mana pool was smaller than a puddle, and your physical state was so pathetic that digging a small hole almost made you pass out. Still, even for a wreck like that, it shouldn't have been that bad. Something sketchy must have happened back then, but hey, no use stressing about it now. Suddenly, a tap on your desk snaps you out of it. You look over, cool as a cucumber. And what do you know? It's the beautiful Yu So-Yan. She drops a crumpled up piece of paper on your desk, leaving you totally baffled. You unfold it, and scrawled on the paper is a giant hi. Your internal monologue is just, "Okay, what's her game now?" A little while later, your instructor, Kim Hyenino, announces that you all can get a weekend pass to leave campus, but you'll have to file the proper paperwork for it. And with that, class dismissed. The idea of getting off campus has your gears turning. You quickly scribble down a request for a Saturday trip with a totally made-up reason. Brace, the instructor, is surprised you're actually doing it. He double-checks if you're for real and asks where you're headed. But before you can answer, you hear your name. It's that cute girl, the one wearing attire. Okay, fashion is a wild ride these days. The two of you have a quick, awkward chat about the note from earlier. You point out that you even replied politely, but she totally ghosted you. You then push her to spit it out, since you're kind of busy trying to turn in your form. The poor girl just stammers, tripping over her own shy words. She literally can't form a single coherent sentence. You're losing your patience, basically calling her a weirdo and telling her to just nod if talking is too hard. You've clearly pushed her buttons because she is absolutely fuming. She tries to call you out, but you clap back instantly, telling her that getting mad over nothing is basically her default setting. So you cut through the drama and ask her again, what does she actually times want? And just like that, her mind flashes back to a very specific memory. It's your epic showdown with that horrifying, ugly as Sinstone goblin. She was blown away by the battle, especially since you handled that beast with nothing but a sword, zero magic. This was completely off script from what the textbooks preached. All she wanted was to ask you how you iced that rocky monstrosity, but her pride was being a major party pooper. Finally, she lets out a sigh and winds up the courage to ask you. But just as she's about to speak, the teacher teleports in and asks the exact times, same question for her. This gray-haired, bespectacled woman is practically vibrating with excitement to learn your secret sauce. Meanwhile, you're just standing there wondering which dimension this crazy woman just warped in from. You immediately ask why she's crashing the party, since you were pretty sure she hated your guts, which totally throws her for a loop. So, you rephrase the question. You ask if she's still salty because you embarrassed her. The teacher just waves it off, saying she couldn't care less about that and always believed there was only one way to kill monsters. But you, my friend, just shattered her entire reality. Now she needs the full scoop, like yesterday. She even tries to recruit you as her assistant. You hit her with a hard no, explaining you've got a departure form to submit, like, right now. That crazy woman tries every trick in the book to convince you, but it's a total bust. And just like that, you and the teacher peace out, leaving the poor girl standing there all alone. Now she's left to overthink every single thing the teacher said. She's completely baffled. Taking a deep breath, she just decides to let it go, figuring she doesn't need that kind of humiliation in her life. Cut 2. The next day. You are absolutely floored by the sight in front of you. An enormous market is revealed, ending the chapter on a cliffhanger. Flashback to your massive dorm room at Valhalla. You're parked in front of your gaming PC when Grace asks what you're looking up on your phone. You play it cool, telling her it's just info about tomorrow's destination. In reality, you're hunting for a place to offload the treasure you swiped from the vault, and this spot looks like a winner. If the intel is right, then you've officially hit the jackpot. Apparently, there's a whole virtual marketplace you can access right from your phone. Based on the info, you just pay an entry fee to trade basically anything in this super sketchy, dark web-style shopping hub. The only reason a place this wild even exists is because its creator is some top-tier guardian constellation they call the Secret Ruler, or so the story goes. Because of this, all the high rollers use it out in the open, and even though it's completely illegal, the government wouldn't dare mess with it. That's also why it was so easy for you to find a way in. After watching a few simple tutorials online, you decide to give it a whirl. You quickly notice a link hiding in the comments section of the post you're reading. Suddenly, your phone starts blowing up with messages from the little girl, Choi Ain. It's a spam fest of crying bunny emojis. She's telling you she has to skip training tomorrow, and you reply that, what a coincidence, you've also got plans. You toss a few laughing emojis into the chat, which leaves Choi Ain completely confused about what you mean. You have to quickly explain you were just wishing her a good trip and also ask her to please chill with the emojis. You briefly ponder the existence of these virtual bunnies, but then you snap back to your real mission, securing a reservation. You tap a seriously suspicious-looking link on your screen. A little later, you're slipping out of your place dressed like a ninja. You've got on a long hoodie with the hood pulled way up. The location is somewhere nearby, probably some old, run-down cafe in the neighborhood. The entrance is right there in front of you. The wooden door looks ancient, and inside, the place is a total wreck. You cautiously push your way in. All you have to do is go inside and head for the right corner. The spot should be right there. You find a gray door, push it open, and slowly step into another room. And then you see it. An absolutely mind-blowing sight is laid out before you. This is it, the grandiose black market. Night has already fallen, and the moon is shining bright in the dark sky. The whole scene feels totally surreal to you. It is, after all, your first time here. But hold on, this place is giving you a massive case of déjà vu. That purple sky, the clouds, the moon, it's a perfect replay of a night you witnessed a cool 300 years ago. And then, boom, cut to the 3rd district of the Grand Black Market, where you spot some dude in a white mask geeking out over a seriously shiny diamond. You're thinking, wait, is that the contact from the forums? Because his leather jacket looks suspiciously familiar. The guy confirms it and starts rambling about the market's rules of engagement. But let's be real, you only know the basics. So you just cut to the chase, shove a fat wad of cash in his hand, and get a quick thanks for your business. With that transaction done, your mind is already on the cash you just spent and the fortune you're about to rake in. But first, you've got a question for Mr. Man in Black. You need to know the best place to unload all this treasure you're hauling, but you make it clear an auction is off the table. You're not here to wait around, you need a quick and dirty sale. The guy tells you to hit the market in the 3rd district, claiming the merchants there will buy literally anything you throw at them. You can't help but hesitate for a second. You press him, asking who the most legit dealer in the area is. He doesn't miss a beat, a guy named Morris. He gives the best prices, period. Your new contact gives you the coordinates to the 3rd district, and you're feeling pretty grateful. But he stops you, holding up a finger for one last piece of solid advice. He strongly suggests you rock a mask in that part of town. Apparently, with the kind of specialty items being traded, everybody keeps their identity under wraps. And just like that, he hands you a complimentary mask. You thank him like he just gave you the keys to the city, and he sends you off with a casual have fun. And now, here you are in the 3rd district of the Grand Black Market, watching a man in a white mask practically drooling over a gorgeous, sparkling diamond. You stroll right up and ask if he's the man of the hour. Jackpot. He confirms he's the one and only Morris, the legend with the fair prices. You tell him you've got some premium-grade goods to sell. Morris plays it cool, saying it all depends, but if it's just your standard gold and jewels, the appraisal will be a piece of cake. That's your cue. You start unpacking your massive backpack and pull out a seriously heavy-looking black sack. You drop it on the table and say you want to sell the entire contents. Morris is practically vibrating with curiosity as he starts his evaluation with the first item, a ring. Suddenly, his professional poker face completely cracks. He's staring, absolutely stunned, because that's no ordinary ring, it's a ridiculously rare artifact from the era of destruction. No matter how he looks at it, the thing is ancient and priceless. His mind starts racing, wondering if every other item in your bag is just as insane. You show him the rest of the bag's glittering contents. The man in the white mask looks like he's seen a ghost, realizing every single piece is from that same legendary time period. Your voice cuts through his daze, snapping him back to reality. So, you ask, what's the offer for the whole lot? This completely short-circuits his brain. He's just staring at you, trying to figure out how a kid your age managed to get their hands on a king's ransom of ancient, unobtainable artifacts. He breaks the unspoken rule and asks where you got all this stuff. You just give him a look and remind him that this probably isn't the kind of place for those questions. Morris immediately starts apologizing, realizing he almost torched his reputation as a trustworthy dealer. He then admits he has no idea what to even offer you. He confesses that he can't even handle this merchandise. These are artifacts from the era of destruction, and he simply doesn't have the mountain of capital to buy them from you. All right, plan B. You ask him where you should go to get paid what you're owed. Morris points you toward a tall auction building just down the way. You follow up, asking for the timeline. He breaks the bad news. It'll take 2 to 3 weeks because the auction house's schedule is totally slammed, slowing the whole process down. One more question reveals another annoying detail. You'll have to physically come back to the market afterward just to pick up your money. You groan internally at all the bureaucratic nonsense. You cut to the chase and ask for the bottom line. What's the estimated auction value for your haul? This makes Mr. Morris pause and pull out his phone. He taps away for a moment, then shows you the screen, and the number displayed makes your eyes pop out of your head. You're just counting the zeros, thinking this is exactly why you've been hoarding these things. Then you get curious and ask Morris what kind of commission he would have taken on a number that big. The guy tells you he's only got about 3/4 of the asking price, and that's if he liquidates his entire life savings. You, playing it cool, barely even hesitate before accepting his lowball offer, which leaves the dude in the white mask absolutely gobsmacked. He's just completely stunned. See, these artifacts from the so-called era of destruction are worth a fortune, and not just because they're ancient. The real kicker is the constellations. These cosmic sugar daddies popped into existence after that era, and they get weirdly excited about tech from that time. So Morris is thinking, with one of these bad boys, even a total nobody could land a sponsorship deal with a top-tier constellation, all while the alchemist zone keeps humming. He's holding this ridiculously shiny and magical ring, giving it a once-over, and yep, the mana is flowing like a dream. It's still buzzing with that authentic, end-of-the-world magic, ticking all the boxes. He is one seriously happy customer. He just snagged 8 of these priceless relics for pennies on the dollar. Morris grabs the little pouch you brought the jewels in, practically giggling as he bags his prize. He's thinking it's his lucky day when, surprise, he senses someone behind him. His eyes go wide with terror, and there you are, decked out in a menacing black mask and an all-black ensemble. And that's his cue to exit the story. Elsewhere, you're wrestling with a ridiculously huge door, finally prying it open with all your might. The first thing you do is rip that mask off your face. The thing was so suffocating you were pretty sure you were about to become a statistic. You find yourself in a place that looks uncannily like that starter cafe. You immediately whip out your cell phone and pull up your transaction history. Yep, with that one sale, your money problems are officially a thing of the past. You're cheering over the fat stacks you made from those 8 rings, and the best part is, you've got plenty more where they came from. You're feeling invincible, like you'll never have to worry again when your phone buzzes with a sketchy notification. It's a call from an unknown number, of course. You answer it without a second thought. On the other end, some woman immediately invites you to dinner. No hello, no nothing. You ask her how she even got your number, and she just bulldozes on, claiming she's a teacher from Valhalla before rattling off directions to a restaurant, not giving you a single second to argue. And just like that, she hangs up, leaving you standing there, monumentally annoyed at the audacity. But hey, you've got nothing better to do, and this chick is apparently offering to spend all her cash on a free meal for you, so you decide to go, closing the chapter on this very weird invitation. All right, rewind. Back to the scene with Morris and the guy in the black getup. Morris is demanding to know why he's there, and the guy just asks if they're not on friendly terms. Morris basically scoffs, saying a run-of-the-mill merchant doesn't just get to shoot the breeze with the owner of the entire market, even if they've crossed paths a few times. Because yeah, plot twist, the guy standing there is the owner of the whole joint, known only as the Black Cat, and he finds Morris's attitude pretty damn amusing. Morris, still not getting it, asks again why the Black Cat is bugging him. The owner plays it cool, saying it's no big deal. He's just curious. Why a merchant who's been MIA for ages suddenly decided to join the auction? Morris snaps back that their so-called anonymous registration is a total joke. The Black Cat just shrugs, explaining that since the market's times, real times, owner is a literal constellation, privacy isn't really a thing. He can access any info he wants, and right now, he wants to see the items Morris just bought. Morris, knowing he's cornered, gives in. He's still thinking this whole situation is super weird. The big boss has never shown this kind of interest before. He grudgingly tosses the little black bag with your old rings onto the table. The Black Cat falls dead silent, just staring. Then he starts muttering about the insane value of the items, leaving Morris completely confused about what he's suddenly rambling on about. Then, out of nowhere, a system panel flickers into existence, saying the constellation on the other side is watching in total shock. The message keeps spamming the screen over and over. The Black Cat instantly puts 2 and 2 together. His cosmic boss wants one of those rings, and he wants it now. And that's our cliffhanger, folks. Cut to you, somewhere else entirely. You're at the Valhalla restaurant, where a fork is gracefully twirling some pasta that looks good enough to be illegal, and it's heading right for your mouth. Your teacher is making a whole production out of eating, telling you how insanely delicious this stuff is when she finally notices you're not even touching your food and asks what's up. You just brush it off, saying you're just shocked a place like this even exists in Valhalla. She's like, oh yeah, we've got the cafeteria, the staff place, and this joint. But you could not care less. You cut right to the chase. Why did she drag you out here? For a second, she's totally stumped. Then, bam, she asks you to be her assistant, and you shut that down so fast, it's not even funny. She begs you not to be so hasty, promising all these amazing perks for interns. She practically pleads with you to just hear her out, because let's be real, you both knew this was coming. You humor her for a second, asking what these benefits are. She starts talking scholarships and financial aid, but honestly, you're already bored. Then she dangles the chance to co-author a paper with her, maybe on the 3 types of monster attacks. If you pull that off, she says, your name would be plastered all over the World Association of Monster Research, bringing you fame and fortune. You're still not biting. She keeps pushing, even throwing in extra days off from school. But you remain a stone wall, leaving her scrambling to figure out what could possibly convince you. She even tries stroking your massive ego, which fails spectacularly. Totally fed up, she tries to just order you to become her assistant. You hit her with another hard no, thinking her offers are pathetic. Besides, you've got bigger fish to fry, like getting to the center of the Great Forest. And let's be honest, even with her as your mentor, passing that performance evaluation is going to be a long shot. So you deliver the final blow, the checkmate. You don't want to be an assistant, and you're not writing any papers. You can practically see the steam coming out of her ears. Realizing she's lost, she quickly switches tactics, proposing an info swap. She'll give you some juicy intel if you spill the secrets behind your insane monster-slaying techniques. That gets your attention. Turns out, the gossip is about Choi Aaron. You immediately claim you're not interested, thinking you were just doing the girl a favor. But then your teacher drops a bombshell. Choi Aaron might get completely disowned by her family. That stops you in your tracks, but you quickly try to bolt. Your teacher is getting desperate now. You calmly explain that you're done eating and her offers were frankly lame. So, peace out. She's furious, whining that she was expecting to get some information out of this. You're like, yeah, I don't care. You tell her you've already heard everything you needed to. Then, just to mess with her, you ask something you've been wondering. Why is she such a hard ass in class but a total child outside of it? She explains that since she teaches about deadly monsters, she can't afford to have students treating it like a joke. One wrong move could directly affect their survival rate, and because you're all a bunch of numbskulls, she has to be extra strict. You think it's just some high and mighty ideology, but she insists it's the duty of a true teacher. You just scoff, your arrogance on full display. As you finally turn to leave, she calls your name one last time. She tries one more pathetic attempt to squeeze info out of you, fails again, and that's a wrap on this hilariously tense negotiation. All right, hard cut to Sejong at the Cho Jin family's temple. Picture this. A stern-looking man, the guild leader Cho Jin-sok, is sitting across from 2 young warriors. He's brought them in for a little pre-test chat to make sure they don't embarrass the family name. One of these kids is from the True History group, a combat leader and the firstborn son of the family, Cho Jin-jin. The other is another family member, the famous Choi Rin. the leader lays it all out. If they pass this classification test, they get a shot at forming a contract through Chan Wu, one of the family's sacred relics, basically the ultimate proof that they're the real deal. But, and it's a big but, if they fail, they'll be kicked out, excommunicated, and completely cut off from the family. No second chances. Cho Jansuk then asks if they're still down for this. The boy says yes without a single hesitation. Choi Aaron gives the exact same answer, not even blinking. The leader just stares at them both, a storm of thoughts brewing behind his eyes. So, Cho Jan-seok finally lays out the details for you. He drops the bomb that the big test is happening in just 3 weeks and that you're dismissed for now. You both nod and start the long, slow walk to the exit, but out of nowhere, your brother, Cho Jin-jin, hits you with a weird question about whether you managed to read the stars. You're giving him a major side-eye, completely baffled by what he's even talking about. So he clarifies, asking if you happen to catch dear old dad's reaction when you threw your hat in the ring for the test. You go quiet, letting that sink in for a second. Your brother then chirps in that it's super obvious Choi Arn is desperate to be the family leader and finally get that legitimate daughter stamp of approval. Hearing that, you can feel the anger bubbling up, but of course, your brother just keeps on poking you. He's practically laughing at your death glare, doubting you even have a prayer of a chance in this test. Chin Jin just won't let up with the mockery. He twists the knife, saying you don't even have a blessing from a constellation and that your little foreign contract is a joke compared to his. And man, hearing that from your own flesh and blood, it hits you right in the feels. He keeps piling it on, telling you to just give up and go back to being a freeloader, but warns you that lifestyle is about to get real expensive. His parting shot is a smug see you in exactly 3 weeks. Then he's gone, leaving you standing there all vulnerable and alone in that huge space. Suddenly, you're hit with a vision of a woman from your past. This woman had told you, Charon, to become the family leader, because once you clinched that title, you'd be free to do whatever the heck you wanted. Your eyes snap open, the sadness replaced with pure, unfiltered determination. You're ready to face whatever these next chapters throw at you. Meanwhile, over in classroom 1A, every other student is glued to the teacher's every word except for you, Kim Joo-huk. You're a million miles away, lost in thought. You're actually kind of blown away that Brace is stressing over the school's midterm exams. You, on the other hand, usually treat class time as a suggestion, so whatever the teacher is rambling on about, it's just going in one ear and out the other. That teacher with the gray hair is hammering home the point that Valhalla's midterms are no joke, because in both the midterms and finals, the kids with the lowest grades get the boot immediately. So he's telling everyone they better get their acts together. He's practically begging you all to prep for the written and practical tests, so you don't end up at the bottom of the barrel. Honestly, you're way more worried about the written test than the practical. You could ace the physical stuff in your sleep. You're thinking you have to stick around this school until you can reach the center of the Great Forest, even if you have no idea how to get there. So, you do the logical thing and whip out your phone to call Bart. He answers on the first ring. You ask him if he's already sat through most of these classes, and he tells you, yeah, he has. A brilliant, totally unethical idea pops into your head. Bart's taking the test for you. You'll just peek at his answers to make sure nothing looks fishy. Bart thinks this is a little messed up, complaining that it's like sending in a proxy to take his exam, but you just wave it off, saying it's all going to work out one way or another, so he should just get on with it. Meanwhile, the professor finally wraps up class for the day, wishing everyone good work. Everyone mumbles a reply. You snatch your backpack, ready to make a break for it, but just as you're heading for the door, someone calls your name. You turn around and ask the little girl what she wants. She's just checking if there's training today. You tell her, yeah, obviously. You ask her why she's asking, but Chun just says she doesn't feel like stopping, which kind of throws you for a loop. So, you ask if she wants to learn some fencing, since it's probably about time you started that whole process, seeing as she likely doesn't even know how to hold a simple sword. You clarify that it's not really fencing or martial arts, but you're going to show her how to handle some weapons. You're thinking that, besides all this, it's way past time for her to get some practice in with her own weapon. You quickly tell her to meet you at the Academy's training hall. She agrees, and that's a wrap for Chapter 17. Later, at the school's training center, you get right to it and ask Choi Oren how long it's been since she last used her sword. She says it's been a day and a half since she touched it because she's been all in on strength training. It clicks for you instantly that before this, she must have been practicing every single day. He tells you to show him your sword, like right now. So you grab that hilt with the focus of a brain surgeon and slide it out, all serious and dramatic. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately starts dropping some next-level sword techniques on you, and honestly, you're a little lost on what your ring and pinky fingers are even supposed to be doing. But then you finally contort your hands into the right position, and boom, pure magic happens. For a second, you have absolutely no clue what's going on. Turns out, it's the mana from your sword putting on a little light show. You're thinking, I didn't even do that, but the blade suddenly feels way more stable than when you were death gripping it with both hands. Then Kim Joo-hyuk tells you to come at him with everything you've got. You don't even hesitate. You're all in. He casually draws his own sword, ready to face off against his powerhouse in training. You give him a heads up that the pain train is coming. You immediately charge your professor, but as you're sprinting, you notice your footwork feels different in a weirdly good way. Kim Joo-hyuk parries your attack without breaking a sweat. He gives you a backhanded compliment, saying you're way faster, but of course, there's a catch. He quickly tells you to stop wasting so much magic on your fancy footwork. You get the message loud and clear. Round 2. You ready your awesome sword, plant your feet, and focus. Then you launch yourself at your professor, unleashing a perfectly calculated strike. Kim Joo-hyuk immediately calls out your charge as very good, but surprise, surprise, there's a problem with your follow-through. Apparently, you need to rotate your body more. You nod, absorbing the feedback to level up your attacks, and Kim Joo-hyuk just tells you to come at him again, no holding back. You got it, you say, no hesitation. You immediately start putting your new battle IQ to the test, aiming a flurry of strikes right at Kim Joo-hyuk's chest. Your attacks are so ridiculously fast, they're leaving literal light trails in the air. The professor is on the defensive, weaving and dodging your onslaught, and he successfully dodges, leaving your sword to kiss the dirt. The two of you have a classic stare down. You're thinking this is all going according to plan as you square up against him. You're relentlessly trying to land a hit with zero intention of backing down. You're way stronger now, all thanks to Kim Joo-hyuk's insane training methods. Meanwhile, he's just facing you down, looking as calm and unbothered as ever. The duel gets so wild that your swords clash and lock, ending this super intense but super productive session. The sun is starting to dip below the horizon over the massive Valhalla school. The scene cuts back to the training room where you and Kim Joo-hyuk are still grinding. You are absolutely wiped, breathing hard and heavy. Your trainer then announces that it's been 1 hour. He decides to call it a day, and you're more than happy to agree. You, the girl in the pink outfit, immediately collapse onto the floor. You're panting, completely exhausted from the showdown, and you watch your trainer sheath his sword. You realize his skills are on a whole other level, way sharper than at the opening ceremony. But here's the kicker. There's still a massive problem. You couldn't even come close to matching Kim Joo-hyuk, and this was after you specifically asked him to teach you his sword style. After letting that sink in, you quickly call out his name. You demand another duel the next time you get a chance. This request seems to throw him for a loop. He definitely wasn't expecting that. He thinks sparring with you is actually pretty useful, not to mention fun, since you're a talented hard worker. He'd already noticed your natural talent with a blade back at the entrance ceremony, even though you're completely out of breath and he's not. In any case, because you're such a natural with his style, you could actually help him sharpen his own skills. He figures if this were 300 years ago, you'd have been his star pupil. So, you ask again, we're dueling one more time, right? Kim Joo-hyuk thinks it over for a second and decides to mess with you, saying he doesn't feel like it at all. You just casually agree with him. This actually disappoints your trainer a little, seeing you give up so fast. You explain it's because he's totally right. You figure if you just do everything Kim Joo says, you're guaranteed to become way more powerful. He seems a little bummed that you agree with him so easily. You just brush it off, telling her it's cool since training was a wrap for the day anyway. Choi Aran hits you with a "see you next time," and you just nod, ending that little chapter of your life. Flash forward, and boom, you're at the Grand Valhalla Stadium. You glance over at Yoo Soo-hyun, who's looking around like he hasn't been here since the ribbon-cutting ceremony. You see Oh Se-hyuk mentally short-circuiting at the sheer number of first years. Dude totally didn't expect this kind of turnout. Meanwhile, Choi Aran is in full-on silent observer mode, not saying a single word. You're standing there totally lost, wondering what this giant get-together is for. Grace pipes up, saying the teacher mentioned this 2 weeks ago, which only confuses you more since that's like ancient history. Suddenly, the head instructor bellows for everyone's attention, about to drop the details on Valhalla's midterm exams. First up on the chopping block, a dungeon raid. You're all supposed to form groups and dive into an artificial playground of pain that's literally being built right in front of you. So there you are, packed in with all the other students, when the senior instructor announces you're free to form your own little cliques of up to 8 members. Your grade is based purely on how much you contribute during the raid, but there's also a super important way to get yourself booted. If the clock runs out, it's an instant game over for you. The instructor also makes it a point to mention the dungeon's difficulty is a measly F+. Then he yells, "Go!" and the clock starts ticking immediately. A wave of panic and desperate team-forming chatter washes over the entire student body. The teacher and the senior instructor share a look, totally enjoying the students' frantic energy. But, of course, there's a massive catch to this whole thing. You overhear Yo Yan complaining that the dealer on her team is trash and starts scouting for a replacement, even as the poor guy insists he's got it handled. In her mind, she figures she doesn't need anyone who might outshine her anyway. She calculates that 5 hours is plenty of time for 8 people in a low-level dungeon, but since contribution is key, a tight team of 6 could be the sweet spot for skills and talent. She barks the order to start, already stressing about how to stand out. The senior instructor smirks, thinking that at least one fifth-generation kid actually understands the real point of the test while everyone else is clueless. Normally, you tackle these things with a small army of 20 people, or at the very least, a standard team of 8. And if your team's balance is all out of whack, you're basically guaranteed to have drama, meltdowns, or total failure.